Welcome to Invest Insights. I'm Abby Malone. I'm joined today by Alex McManus, the co-founder and CEO of Eyrus. Alex, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
With the rapid increase in reliance on technology and the ongoing challenges posed to the sector, how has the last year brought light to and put more focus on both the prominent and lesser known inefficiencies in the construction sector? And how is Eyrus helping to solve and mitigate these inefficiencies?
So I think there's a couple things that are really important to understand about the construction kind of industry and market itself. First of all, it's very decentralized from the way corporations run, right, to the way a project is run. So you have a lot of different stakeholders involved in collaborating to kind of build a final product, which might be a little different than a lot of other industries. And it's very tangible by nature, right? You're building a building, you're building a bridge, right? And it's a physical outcome. And so traditionally in this industry, a lot of the collaboration takes place on site, in person, right? And that decentralized nature just in itself creates inefficiencies. So what Eyrus is doing and what technology is doing in these industries is trying to kind of bridge the different stakeholders and make everything kind of more transparent and actually provide transparency across data.
Sure.
And so when the pandemic hit, most people are used to going to a site to understand what's happening, right? And you can't do that anymore, right? The in-person meetings have been minimized while there's still workers out on the site, right? They don't want as many people on the site. So how are you going to get the information? So Eyrus collects real-time information from work sites so you can understand and have a digital twin of what's happening on that site. And we send that data across all the different stakeholders. So everybody's looking at the same information and they're really able to manage those inefficiencies of that process.
So if I was a user, what does that look like?
So you would actually be able to log into the Eyrus platform and see kind of in real time who's on the construction site, what trade partners they're with, what work they are doing, right? And perhaps where they are on site if we're zoning a site. Right. So automatically you can see, okay, these people are on site, these people are working, right? And we're meeting our schedule without actually having to be there.
How has your business transformed operations and services in order to better position yourselves to capitalize on the rapid change happening in the market?
All right, so the Eyrus platform itself kind of starts with a centralized database of the entire workforce that could be on a construction site, right? And they're going to come from many different companies, right? So we have one central database, and then we create a digital twin of that construction site, right? So if it's a large site, you may be able to see different zones and different areas of work, right? And then we send all that data automatically in real time. So it's kind of the base of the database. And with that, we were able to kind of pivot some of the tools that we already had in existence, kind of to match the needs of COVID.
Sure.
So right when really in March in 2020, when COVID kind of first really hit, there was a huge impact to the construction industry and almost every site shut down, right? And I think this was across every industry. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? How are we going to operate?
Right.
What is this? And because construction is still run by people, right, you need the people on site to do the work. And then what we found is clients that had the Eyrus platform, we were able to work with them to provide safety protocol and kind of data alerts to meet the needs of COVID. So if we have a project and it was set up in certain zones, we would know that we worked with our clients to understand the kind of physical area of those zones and then set density alerts.
Right.
So if there are too many people in that area, that would become a safety issue. We could send alerts out to the right person on site so they could go manage that area, right? So so same with proximity in a store or density in a store, they're trying to limit it. We needed to limit it on construction sites, but allow them to still work.
This was one of your new solutions called Zone Management, Density, and Authorization Alerts. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
And the other one that I was reading about was the Eyrus Safe Proxy Badge. What was that system? What is that system and why was it created?
All right, so initially what we started to do with our platform is provide kind of loose contact tracing. Right. If you were in a certain area at the same time as somebody else, we would have a really loose sense of contact tracing. If somebody happened to become sick, we could go back and see who else they worked near. And what we were really kind of challenged with by some of our clients is to come up with something that would provide more detailed information. So Safe Prox was designed to tell you in detail who you were near, for how long, and how far apart were you. So then kind of managing that data within kind of the context of COVID protocol, we then looked at tracking information on who was close to who within 6 feet,
right,
for a period of 15 minutes over, right, and however they wanted to look at the data, either over a course of a day or over a course of a condensed period of time. Right. So we're able to track all that data, have it in our system, and then, if there was a COVID incident, use that information to do contact tracing on a work site. And the beauty of that is that enabled them to continue working, right, and have some comfort level that if there was an issue, you don't have to shut down an entire work site, but we're just going to then notify the people that they were near. Now, that was layered in on top of all the COVID protocol they put on sites, right, keeping people apart. Right? And the other thing our Safe Prox can do, if programmed, if that's what our client wants, is it could notify two people if they were too close together. So if you came within 6 feet, it could set an audio or visual kind of alert or alarm to those individuals.
Over the course of COVID, were you challenged with using this system? Were sites challenged with having people who had contracted COVID on site and needing to trace their steps?
Yes, right. And then we were able, because we have the layering of data, we had the Safe Prox, right? And we also had the zone management. They're able to do two things. They're able to provide the contact tracing, right, as well as understand where that individual was on site, and right at certain points when they felt like it was more necessary during COVID, right, they could go and clean those areas, right? So instead, depend if you don't have to clean an entire work site, depending on how big it is, and you only have to look at areas where that individual was, right, it makes everybody's life a little bit easier. The other thing we were able to do, which I think is really important, is protect the data, right? So in any industry, right, there's issues of trust and data privacy, right? And so we created an anonymous reporting process so that if somebody had COVID, they would talk to their employer, because you have a lot of stakeholders on a construction work site. They don't necessarily feel comfortable or want to share that with everybody else. So we created an anonymous reporting process where even Eyrus ourselves wouldn't know who had COVID, but it would enable that company to then relay the information to everybody else that might have been impacted by that without having to say who the individual was.
With all these transformations that you experienced on your professional side, what about the personal side? How have you personally transformed this past year?
I actually think this is probably pretty universal, but I think there was a lot of things people took for granted that I'm no longer, taking for granted. And that's kind of a feeling, but really trying to put that into action. Right. So as simple as, right, my own personal relationships with my family, I call my mother more often, right? And that actually has done wonders for like that relationship. Yeah. And then within kind of the corporate world, right, understanding the value of the trust and the relationships that we've already built and already have, and how important those were once it's harder to kind of bridge new ones. So really kind of underscoring and appreciating those, I think is the biggest thing for me.
Well, thank you again. That was Alex McManus, the co-founder and CEO of Eyrus. My name is Abby Maloney, and you've been watching Invest Insights. Alex, thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Abby.
Hey everyone, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you can stay up to date on the latest business trends from our knowledgeable experts. Be sure to check out the description below for more information on the segment you just watched. Thanks for tuning in.